Lordy, lordy. Me and Walter back again.
Yeah.
How you doing,
The boys
dude?
are back.
The boys are back in town.
I'm doing good. I moved into a new house, and that's why you haven't heard from us in so long.
It has felt like a fucking grip, dude.
It has. It's only been 2 weeks, but
It felt so much longer.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Yeah, dude. I mean, moving's no fucking joke, man. It's a lot of stuff to do, and I only moved like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it is obscenely close to your old spot, like.
Yeah.
But dude, I love it though. I went over to the house. It looks great.
Oh, it is like it's a great house, dude. I'm gonna fucking cast of Amontillado myself into this house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's what I said when we moved into this house. I was like, "Yep, that was the last time I'm ever moving again. You can just bury me in the floorboards.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to fucking go. I'm gonna die here." I basically bought a $100,000 coffin.
It's a lot more useful than most coffins too.
For sure, dude. Better sleep too, I hear.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, this is Tome of Chaos. We talk religion, philosophy, government. We're trying to crowdsource a religion that doesn't suck based on shitty things that our religion did to us and, other shitty things we hear. And we've been running through the myth of Sisyphus. And it's been great. I love it. And we're getting to like a really meaty chapter. I think that we've been talking about because, those first few, it's just like, damn, dude, when are you going to get to the good story? Like, why?
When are you going to stop making me want to cry?
Yeah. When are you going to tell me like, hey, dude, don't kill yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, at the top, it's like, we're still doing trigger warnings and shit. There's a lot of suicidal, depiction and talk throughout these. So, I think that if you have a problem with that, it might not be a great time to listen. But I think that if you have a problem with it too, I've gotten to the point, especially after this chapter, that I would hand this book to anyone who is struggling with suicidal thoughts or tendencies.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of like, I don't want to say hope because it's not that, but it's got a very like powerful message on how to live despite the fucking brutality of the situation all humans are in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's like so cool. Like the quest to like live with the absurd. He found such a beautiful way to make that happen.
Yeah. I think so. I think that thinking about, we got a text message today from one of our homies on a paper that an old deacon of our church, like big time leader, wrote on suicide. And reading that and comparing it to what Camus says, it's completely different, and the vibe from the church, I feel like from the Christian church should seem loving and caring and things like that. But it seems like he's just slapping a prescription on it for what you need to do if someone in your fucking home church wants to kill themselves or is depressed.
Dude, it's pretty fucked up for sure.
He calls it sinful and,
Yeah, not only was suicide labeled sinful, which I feel like is like, it has been in the Christian church many times been called like a sinful act, which is gross and disgusting, but not controversial. he went as far to say in that paper that depression was sinful.
Yeah, it's fucking. I mean, I'm gonna read it right now. Actually, I figured.
Oh, you were gonna?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it.
I'm gonna read it. Well, I think that if we're going into the meat and potatoes of Camus, I want to.
Mhm.
I like Colin hitting us up and giving us this. He's been on the podcast,
Mhm.
and he hit us up and he was like, "Man, have you seen this shit? I stumbled upon it. Like, this is crazy." Um, and I guess this is written. Can I say the dude's name? This is authored. Probably not.
Well, only we can
Cool.
talk about why it's weird for me personally.
Oh,
later.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I will say this right now. He was a like he was he started our church.
Mhm.
Him and a homie started our church, and this is his writing on suicide. In addition to therapy, we need to consider ethical, quote unquote, moral dimensions of suicide. In our eagerness to help, we may come to view suicidal thinking more like a disease or a condition that happens to people and mysteriously controls them. God, what a fucking idiot. While depression and compulsions do have chemical imbalance as a factor, we do not want to lose sight of the sinful factors as well. Most people want to separate these two and either put depressed people in the disease camp or sinful camp. We as a church want to hold the truth of both positions. We want to have compassion and patience with the chemical factor and the confidence in God's promise and power to expect depressed people to choose positive steps towards healing. Only in cases of psychosis or the most extreme conditions involving complete loss of self-control would suicide become a non-moral tragedy.
I don't like it.
I don't like it, dude. It's
I
icky.
don't like
It's
it.
icky, dude.
I'll say this, right? Like, I'm happy that there is consideration of the chemical imbalance and that there is a category for depressed people that isn't just they're sinful, like
For
that
sure.
is more nuanced than some churches. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, believe it or not. I mean, and even though this dude wrote that doesn't mean that it's throughout the church. I mean, I've told my story of like telling people I wanted to kill myself and they told me thanks for sharing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but I do agree that like there is a consideration and shit going into it, but it's
That being said, not great.
it's cold, it's fucking weird. And I put it in the text. I was like, Camus would have said that dude fucking committed philosophical suicide. He
I mean,
jumped.
he would have said that a long time ago.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like at the beginning, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you've committed suicide too, dude. You put a Band-Aid on the absurd to try and jump over it. You know what I mean? You put up a wall to
Mm-hmm.
where you can follow God's rules and know that God has a meaning for everything. And it allows you to kind of just be fucked up and cold to people. That's what that response is like depression is sinful. And it's like, man, come on, fuck you. Like, can we talk about the whole Bible when we talk about that? Because the only reason depression exists is because God put it here.
Mm-hmm. True.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, homie. Like, it's not my fault. Like that chemical imbalance is there because God wanted to punish the fall of man.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it is weird the standards that Christians will hold people to for things they're born with.
Yeah.
I mean, same being said for, homosexuality, whatever the fuck else that they don't
Trans
like.
people, fucking
Yeah,
everything.
it's like you're born that way. What are you gonna do about it? Like that. It's such such a silly thing to. But that's all over the Bible. I mean, even for like just people wanting to have sex with each other being sinful. It's like, oh, that's like, come on, man.
It's well, and you know, I've said this. I don't know if I've even talked
Sex
about it.
outside of marriage, like that,
It's
you
insane.
can't.
It's
You
insane.
programmed us to want to do that one,
Yeah, it's
buddy.
insane, dude.
I got horny when I was like 12 years old. You told me I should have
Yeah,
got
dude.
married at 12.
Yeah, dude. It's fucking
Come
crazy.
on, man.
It's crazy, man. And it's like I remember sitting one time and they were talking about you know, cuz we had to do like porn-free shit, and
Hmm.
some dude, you know, makes all of his money that works for that church making like porn-free content and shit like that, and books and all that. And I remember sitting there and some dude was like, he was like, yeah, but what if I want to like jerk off and I just think about math equations? Is that okay? And it kind of broke the dude. Like he asked it. He just asked it straight up with a bunch of people around it. And the dude was like, does not compute. Like, what the fuck
So
how
funny.
do I answer this? You know?
I heard somebody say, "What if I masturbate to the glory of God?"
Oh,
And I thought that was one of the sickest ones
that
I've
is
ever heard.
deep as fuck, dude. That's so heavy.
Just
That
so
dude,
in awe
get
of the
him on
power
here.
of
I
God
want that dude to
and
be a saint.
you know, I'll tell you who it is later.
Oh,
But
I'm
that,
so about that.
what a golden quote.
Yeah, dude, it is a great quote. But yeah, I just wanted to read that out. Like it coming up right before we were recording, I was like the just the way that that was written compared to the way Camus has talked about depression and suicide is
Mhm.
insane and different. You know what I mean? And it's like, you got this fucking shit right here, man. You got this right here. You could have fucking went into this. You know what I mean? You could have read
Well,
that.
we'll get into it later, but I think like such a huge part of the difference in perspective on suicide and depression and all that stuff is like when you have God and you have the afterlife and you have all these bigger things bigger than this life, all that stuff like is more trivial. Like the loss
Yeah.
of the life, the life lived in sadness, tragedies are so minor compared to eternal damnation, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the thing that a Christian is sad about is not that you killed yourself. It's not that you were depressed. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I know that there are, fucking suicidal Christians, and there's Christians who care very deeply about their friends that they've lost to suicide or depression. And I'm not trying to say that Christians don't care about people.
No.
That's not what I'm saying is there are certain Christians, not all Christians, that when they talk about these things, it's with this air of like it's sinful, and that's the problem with it.
Well, and I think that's the world too. I mean, how many times does someone kill themselves and they say like, "Oh, that's like the most selfish thing you can fucking do," and shit. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, you know, like,
Yeah.
I can give you a bunch more selfishness, like selfish things than that. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it's like it comes from a like you hear like I so I know someone who did kill themselves in a church and went to the funeral and shit like that. And you hear these like people get up and talk, and it's like you know, like the work that they could have done, you know what I mean, if it wasn't cut
Mm-hmm.
short. And it's like you're saying like it's supposed to be beautiful, but it's like, is this person supposed to fucking just work and toil for a God that has left them alone? You know what I mean? Um, just so that he can get to the end of the story and be like, "Hey, good job! Like you fucking your life sucked on Earth." You know, like you're not just a tool, man. You're a living, breathing creature with feelings and fucking with fucking fucked up chemical imbalances and
Mm-hmm.
parents that weren't there and shit. You know, I keep coming back to that of like suicide among teens is always like were their parents like around and shit? And it's like, you think about the Bible, it's like God ain't fucking around. You know what I mean? Like he put us here and left,
Yeah.
Like how the fuck do you, how the, like, what do you expect? You
Yeah.
know?
No. Yeah.
Like,
It's a natural conclusion.
what do you expect? Like, thoughts and prayers don't fucking cure people.
Mm.
You put laws on chaos, is what you did. Like, you continue to put laws on chaos, on how people were born. You have to be born this way, and it's like, dude, that's a roll of the fucking dice. It's a
Mm-hmm.
roll of the fucking dice. You cannot put laws on the roll of the dice.
You know what's this is like such a non fucking continuation of what we're talking about.
Yeah, dude, we're getting into something completely different right now.
But dude, like think this is gonna sound so like fucking stonery and ridiculous. But like fucking Christians will be like, well, you know, you were born sinful, right? What about when we can like genetically make people born exactly how we want them to be?
Oh,
Are
through
they going to be all
CRISPRs
on
and
board?
shit.
Or do you think they're all, yeah, like when we can like program the DNA, like when we make a kid
Yeah.
and we're like, I want to be blonde, I want to have green eyes, and he's gonna, you know, no, I don't want any depression, I don't want ADHD. Like you can like select everything.
Yeah.
You think those Christians are gonna want to be like,
No,
well, let's just design sinless children?
absolutely not.
No, because
No.
that's playing God.
Well, because it's like stem cell shit too. You know what I mean? It's like CRISPRs are fucking definitely against God. I mean, there's a lot of Christians that don't want to fucking get vaccinated because, it's like I don't know if I think that Christians would have a hard time with modern medicine if they understood how many aborted fetuses go into like testing and fucking shit like that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that and that is like essentially just a continuation of like witchcraft, right?
Yeah.
And like black magic. It's
Yeah.
like that's all medicine is. It's just like at one point people were just fucking around with herbs and like,
Oh yeah.
you know, this shit they found, and then they were like, "Oh, this works," and
Dude,
now it's all science and sterilized. And
we
shit.
just
But
we just
back in the day,
dude, we just planted some like echinacea, right?
hell yeah.
And like we planted some echinacea, like Sarah did, and I didn't know what the fuck echinacea is, but it's like a tea. You can make tea out of it, and it helps with like I don't know if it's stomach and shit like that. There's some like healthy benefit to it.
Hell
And
yeah.
I was sitting there looking at that plant, and I was just like, that's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's somebody figured that the fuck out and made something, and then Christians called it potions while they were baptizing people in the fucking holy water. You know what I mean? Like, like it's fucking nuts, man. It just yeah,
Fucking magicians.
it's crazy, dude. Well, we're here to talk about Camus.
yeah, for sure.
And I think throughout this chapter, we'll have plenty of time to dunk on fucking shitty religious Christians
No, for sure.
throughout this chapter. So, where do you want to start at, Walter?
I don't know, man. Let's see. The chapter is called "Absurd Freedom."
Yeah.
And he kind of just like starts by kind of reiterating the absurd, right? Kind of goes back to, you know, I'm my appetite for unity and coherence and reasonability from this world. All I know is I'm never going to get the answers to these things.
Yeah.
Like he really spells that out. I feel like he kind of said that before, but he really just says like
He hits it real hard
the
in
main
very layman
point-
terms.
Yeah, is not that there is definitely no meaning, but that he knows that he will never find that meaning
Yeah.
in this life.
So I'll give you a piece of it. I don't know whether this world has a meaning that transcends it, but I know that I do not know that meaning, and that it is impossible for me just now to know it. What can a meaning outside my condition mean to me? I can understand only in human terms. What I touch, what I resist, what resists me, That is what I understand. And these two certainties, my appetite for the absolute and for unity, and the impossibility of reducing this world to a rational and reasonable principle.
Mm.
I also know that I cannot reconcile them. What other truth can I admit without lying, without bringing in a hope I lack and which means nothing within the limits of my condition?
Dude.
I think that that is the best throughout the entire book, the best description of the absurd.
I don't know if it's, for me, the best description of the absurd, because I feel like a lot of his metaphors really helped me.
Yeah.
But I do think it's like the most concise framing of his overall thesis, right? Because I think when I've talked to people about what I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I'm reading, Camus, Myth of Sisyphus. This is kind of what's going on. They're like, so he thinks there's no meaning to life? And I'm always like, well, no. He doesn't say that there is no meaning. He says that it's unknowable to him.
Yeah.
It's more of like an agnostic approach to existentialism of like, I'm not ready to say I'm a nihilist, right? Yeah. It's not like nothing matters and there is nothing and that's all. It's more like, who knows? And how do I live with the fact that who knows?
Yeah, it slides you right in the middle of nihilism and existentialism. You know what I mean? Like, in a way that, because nihilism would be, there is no meaning, kill yourself, right? But I love that, and he doesn't even really go on to, like, there is no God. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, you know what I mean? A lot of people say that his philosophy is only philosophy in like the words, like how he's framing his things, but he doesn't offer much argument or anything. Like, this seems like a writing of a man who just wants to get his thoughts out there in a lot of ways, of just like, I'm putting my thoughts out there. I need to know things. I know what I don't know. I know what I do know. And he talks about that more in this chapter too, of like, there are only, like, I only know the consistencies and shit like that. Right. So, he talks about, I'll read, another piece, and we can talk about it. So let us insist on the method. It is a matter of persisting. At a certain point on his path, the absurd man is tempted. History is not lacking in either religious or prophets, even without gods. He is asked to leap. All he can reply is that he doesn't fully understand, that it is not obvious. Indeed, he does not want to do anything but what he fully understands. He is assured that this is the sin of pride, but he does not understand the notion of sin, that perhaps hell is in store, but he has not enough imagination to visualize that strange future, that he is losing a mortal life, but that seems to him an idle consideration. An attempt is made to get him to admit his guilt. He feels innocent. To tell the truth, that is all he feels. His irreparable innocence. This is what allows him everything. Hence, what he demands of himself is to live solely with what he knows, to accommodate himself to what is, and to bring in nothing that is not certain. He is told that nothing is, but this at least is a certainty. And it is with this that he is concerned. He wants to find out if it is possible to live without appeal.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I think of like, one thing that I think about with that is I think it is like, I have felt those ways at different points in my life, right? Like, I am innocent. And
Yeah.
I've also felt guilty, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I have like I've never been like able to imagine what hell is like. That's always been like, yeah, sure hell.
Well,
You
even
know
the
what I
Bible
mean?
doesn't fucking give you much on it.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it's like it really reads to me as like a fucking fear tactic just to like prey on fucking anxiety
Yeah.
people or scare, like it's a really shitty thing to do.
That's the whole thing. I mean, him talking about is like this pressure to make a leap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this pressure of like, what about hell? You're
Mm-hmm.
guilty. You're not innocent. What about immortal life? Like he's giving off like all these like reasons why people end up committing philosophical suicide, you know, of like
Mm-hmm.
these thoughts that hit as you know, and all this he's talking about is after the absurd, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to realize that there's no meaning to start searching for a meaning almost, you know what I mean? Like so you hit that absurdity and then you start building the walls around it. And I think that um just his like he's like, but I am innocent, you know, I haven't done much wrong, you know, hell is
Mm-hmm.
fucking hell. The more I read I've reread Genesis recently more and more because I'm like, God damn, I do think Satan's the hero of this story. Yeah, like for real, 100%. That is not fucking allegory. Like that is, I'm like, the more I read it, I'm like, God damn, like God really wanted to keep something from us. You know
It
what I
does.
mean?
There does definitely feel like a very solid case to be made,
Well,
especially if you interpret, as Camus does,
yeah.
that the only way to resolve a god is to admit that, the problem of evil, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
that he's the one who put the evil here, so he's
Yeah.
responsible
I
for
have
it.
that. I have that quote highlighted. We'll hit it. I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like,
Well, I mean, it's basically like your thing, right?
yeah,
It's basically saying God put the evil here. Satan was like, there's some shit you guys should know about God.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and so it's like I think that um the saying of like I only know what I know and what I'm allowed to know is a good
Mm-hmm.
place to be there. Like everything else is conjecture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like everything that Christians kind of hold on to as their life is like, yeah, it's in a book and you can say it's real, you know what I mean? You can do that, but it's still just like you don't know. So I
Mm-hmm.
think Camus is starting at a better level there of being like, I don't know. I know what I know, and I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
So how do I fucking continue to go?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and um, the live without appeal is fucking insane. Like, how do I do that?
Oh yeah, that shit is sick. I mean, how do you navigate this life without committing philosophical suicide?
Yeah,
And yeah, it's like
I mean, we did it.
I don't fucking know.
You know, we did it for a while. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I committed philosophical suicide pretty hard, like a few times in my life.
Yeah. For sure. So
I
I'll hit
still
you.
do.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, for sure. Of like figuring out what else. It doesn't have to be Christianity. It can be like whatever else is going to like build
Oh
up a
yeah,
fake
dude.
meaning in your mind of like what it's going to be.
Sometimes I start feeling all fucked up and weird about life, and I'm just like, maybe reincarnation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Reincarnation does sound
Okay.
great.
I'll just put it out there as like a possibility, and then that way I can stop thinking about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like it's literally philosophical suicide, but
Mm-hmm.
like sorry, Camus, I'm not at the point yet where I can just constantly live in that place.
And it doesn't sound like he is either, though. Right? Like when
Oh
he
no,
talks about his
he
shit.
definitely says he is, dude. What
Yeah,
do you mean?
when he talks about like this shit of like he's like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I don't know where I'm at. These things are crazy. God seems like a thing. You know what I mean? Like he seems like through his writing, he never puts it off as he knows everything.
He doesn't, but he definitely says we have to live in constant revolt
For
of
sure.
the absurd.
For sure.
We never explain the the absurd away. We live kind of like in spite of the absurd,
Yes.
like in opposition to the fact that we shouldn't live.
Yeah. So he has
In like the grand rebellion.
yeah, dude, the Grand Rebellion. Um, so let me hit you with another one and we can talk about it. Now I can broach the notion of suicide. It has already been felt what solution might be given. At this point, the problem is reversed. It is what previously a question of finding out whether or not life had to have a meaning to be lived. It now becomes clear, on the contrary, that it will be lived all the better if it has no meaning. Living an experience, a particular fate, is accepting it fully. Now no one will live this fate, knowing knowing it to be absurd, unless he does everything to keep before him that absurd brought to light by consciousness. Negating one of the terms of the opposition on which he lives amounts to escaping it. To abolish conscious revolt is to elude the problem.
So sick.
Fucking conscious revolt, dude.
I've got a quote that goes along with that one too.
Hit me with it.
He says, suicide would constitute an elimination of absurd freedom and therefore is not a rational solution. Wait, this isn't the quote. Sorry.
Are you talking about the suicide settles the absurd?
I don't know. I thought I had the quote, but this isn't the quote. This is somebody talking about what he said. Anyways, yeah, I think that shit fucking, I mean, that's the gold right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we've been waiting for this whole time.
For sure. Suicide settles the absurd. It engulfs the absurd in the same death. But I know that in order to keep alive, the absurd cannot be settled. It escapes suicide to the extent that it is simultaneously awareness and rejection of death. It is at the extreme limit of the condemned man's last thought, that shoelace that despite everything he sees a few yards away on the very brink of his dizzying fall. The contrary of suicide, in fact, is the man condemned to death. Huh. Jesus, dude.
So
Jesus.
crazy.
Can I read it one more time for the people in the back? The contrary of suicide, in fact, is the man condemned to death.
Dude,
That's the revolt.
Yeah. It's
That's
unreal, dude. It is such a wild way to fucking make your way through life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of even what I want to say about it. I'm just like kind of in this place of just like, I mean, it's beautiful, right? To like set up this revolt, like despite, I mean, in a lot of ways, it reflects a lot of our political and like world beliefs, right? Like there's this overwhelming sense of like crushing opposition.
Yeah. I mean, he even talks about anarchy in it, like of like the hierarchy of death and shit like that, of like we are, because we belong to this system is why we need to continue living, right? Like is incredible. Like it blew my mind. Like that little section, like I was like on the couch reading it and I was just like, huh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, God damn, it blew my fucking brain, man. Of like, damn, dude. Like I fucking wish 20 years ago somebody would have handed me this. Of like, dude, you like, just by choosing to live, you are revolting against shit that people tell you have to, like, you have to have a meaning. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, it's in everything. I was told when I was 16, like, if you're going to get tattoos, they all have to have meanings. You know what I mean? Like, and then I got a tattoo and I was like, that was rad. I want more. And I thought about it and I was like, man, my life's just not that fucking interesting. I guess I'll just get fucking Rocky Balboa on my shin. Like, that's cool, like just shit like that, like it's just constant. Like the pressure of, you were telling, it's not my story to tell. So I'm going to use like but you'll know where I'm at. You were telling me about someone close to you who was like figuring out their gender identity, and things like that. And one of the things they said was, um, not going by he, him has taken so much weight off of me because of the boys don't do this type shit. You know what I mean? Boys don't do this. Men don't cry. Men have to be here in the family and shit like that. And this reminds me of that, of like, by stripping away and saying like there is no meaning, it gives you real power to revolt against this sentencing that we were given from birth. Of like, one day we're gonna die. And I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking live and live and live until I can't.
Yeah. Revolt against your own death.
Yeah.
Revolt against the fact that, like, no matter what you do, at the end of the day, you die.
Every day you don't fucking kill yourself, you are revolting against a system that makes it so incredibly hard to not fucking kill yourself.
Yeah, and not just like political, but like the world.
Yes.
The state of this existence that we're in.
Yes. Whether it was a fucking god, whether it was fucking evolution, whatever, something set us here and then just left us.
Yeah.
There's no describing factors of what you need to fucking do. And then after that, tons of people put laws and morals on shit that make it real hard to fucking make it. You know? We're judged for fucking everything we do.
Yeah.
So that's fucking goddamn Camus.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
I love you.
I really love it.
I like, god damn it. Let's keep going though.
Sure. Because that's when we get into the absurd freedom, right?
Yeah. So he lays out like kind of three things that the absurd man has to do. It's like revolt and then two others, and I can't remember what they are.
I'm trying to remember. The main things I remember is, because I didn't write a whole lot down, but he was talking about how, because of this, right? Because we now have this absurd freedom of knowing that life has no meaning and living in spite of that, we kind of have to figure out how to live best by that. He also talks about how the concept of proving whether or not we actually have freedom.
Yeah, so I got some shit
like
on that.
A thing he gives a fuck about.
Yeah, I got some shit on that. I'll hit you with it here. So he says, knowing whether or not man is free doesn't interest me. I can experience only my own freedom. As to it, I can have no general notions, but merely a few clear insights. The problem of freedom as such has no meaning, for it is linked in quite a different way with the problem of God. Knowing whether or not man is free involves knowing whether he can have a master. God, what a champion. The absurdity peculiar to this problem comes from the fact that the very notion that makes the problem of freedom possible also takes away all its meaning. For in the presence of God, there is less a problem of freedom than a problem of evil. You love the alternative. Either we are not free and God, the all powerful, is responsible for evil, or we are free and responsible, but God is not all powerful. All the scholastic subtleties have neither added anything to nor subtracted anything from the acuteness of this paradox.
So good. I do love that. Because that fucking question bugs me all the time. Like are we just a reaction to a reaction to, like, does it just feel like we're making choices?
Yeah.
Does that shit fucks with me, and I just don't want to think about it. But I do like that he's like, well, honestly, like, I can't know. None of us can know.
Yeah.
Like, it's back to the absurdism thing, is like, who fucking knows if we actually have freedom or not?
He's got a very heavy shrug. Like Camus, like he's a fucking shrugger. Like somebody could ask him some like deep philosophical question, and that dude's like, like, you don't know, homie. It's absurd. Let's keep fucking moving, like. And I love that. I love that about him, dude. It's fucking great. So we get into those those three things that he talks about mostly in this chapter is my revolt, my freedom, and then my passion is the last one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that, the question of freedom and just being someone who understands like shit's absurd and whatever would have the answer of like, are we free? No, maybe. It doesn't matter. Like, let's fucking keep moving. Like, it's not really even a question. Like, I like that he says, like, the question of, like, is someone free? The better question is, like, can they have a master?
Yeah, do they have a master?
Like,
yeah.
Or just can they have a master? Like, is there an ability to have a master? Then you're not really fucking free.
Right.
And God damn, I love it. I love it.
No, it's good. He basically goes to the thing of just saying, like, the reason we all, like, the only reason he gives that we even should believe in freedom is just that people have preferences. He's just like, well, you say you like this kind of cereal, you say you like to do this thing, so that implies freedom, and that's all we can know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is it truly freedom? Who fucking knows?
Who knows?
All we know is we have preferences, so let's just operate under the assumption that we have the freedom to choose.
Yeah. Well, he starts like kind of using the absurd in a way, right? Like he's just like, it's absurd and I'm enlightened by it. He says in this, the absurd enlightens me on this point. There is no future. Henceforth, this is the reason for my inner freedom. I shall use two comparisons here. Mystics, to begin with, find freedom in giving themselves by losing themselves in their God. By accepting his rules, they become secretly free. In spontaneously accepted slavery, they recover a deeper independence. Boom!
Yeah, dude.
That's nuts, dude. And it's so well talked. Like the language he uses of like, in spontaneously accepted slavery, they recover a deeper independence. Like that's what they're doing, is you're allowing yourself to become a slave to God to feel independence.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember when I was on my way out, going to teachings and stuff, and there was one on
the fishbowl, dude. Is this the
fishbowl
fishbowl one?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Maybe. It actually might be, but I can't remember how the fishbowl comes into play.
Yeah, okay.
Essentially, the whole thing, I think you are right, but I can't remember how they did the metaphor. The whole thing was a teaching on like how
if you take the fish out of the bowl, is it free because it's just gonna die, right?
Right. So like you aren't more free because you have the ability to do the wrong things. Yeah. You're more free when you're free from your own reckless, impulses, right? Like being committed to God is your freedom is that because now you're free from your own wants and desires,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just remember sitting there and being like, no, fuck that, dude.
I'll see
Actually,
myself out, guys, later on.
yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I can't like that's not freedom.
Yeah.
Anytime that like, I mean, it's just a redefinition, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and if we want to talk about my freedom is the ability to jump out of that bowl whether you're going to live or die anyways, right?
mhm.
Like that is
You know what else though, dude? That it is a fucking contradiction.
yeah.
It's a contradiction of their own logic, right? Because they say it's freedom of choice that you get to choose Christ or not, right? You get to choose whether you go to hell or not. And people say, well, like, is that really freedom? Like, if you put a gun to my head and say, like, eat Wheaties or I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out.
Yeah.
Is it really a free choice for me to eat those Wheaties?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Heaven or hell. But at the same time, they'll say, no, there's a freedom in, relinquishing your own free will.
Yeah, dude, it's the same thing with it. It's like God loves you unconditionally, and it's like I don't know, man. Hell seems like a pretty big fucking condition.
Yeah.
like Jesus Christ. So he says, and then he says, in the same way, this is my second comparison. The slaves of antiquity did not belong to themselves, but they knew that freedom, which consists in not feeling responsible, death too has a patrician hands. Death too has patrician hands, which, while crushing, also liberate. Damn, dude. Fucking great. He says then another one we can talk through is this is the second consequence. The absurd man thus catches sight of a burning and frigid, transparent and limited universe in which nothing is possible, but everything is given, and beyond which all is collapse and nothingness. He can then decide to accept such a universe and draw from it his strength, his refusal to hope, and the unyielding evidence of a life without consolation.
Eesh.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. So those are the that's the freedom. You know what I mean? He's like the three consequences of a absurd person is the revolt and then the freedom. And now we're gonna hit on to probably
The passion.
the passion.
Yeah. And I think the passion stuff is interesting because, you get to this point. I feel like I was super hype at this point.
Yeah.
But if he didn't go anywhere, I would be kind of just like, well, what do I do from here, though?
Yeah.
Like, okay, rebel against it, but you did leave me with life is ultimately meaningless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, what do I do with my time? Should I get a hamburger? Should I like what do I do now?
Yeah. He follows that up with, but what does life mean in such a universe? Nothing else for the moment, but indifference to the future, and a desire to use up everything that is given. Belief in the meaning of life always implies a scale of values, a choice, our preferences. Belief in the absurd, according to our definitions, teaches the contrary, but this is worth examining. So that's the thing. He says that himself, like indifference to the future and a desire to use up everything. I love that. You know what I mean? The revolt and then the freedom. And then after the freedom, you figure out that you got to use up everything that is given. Those things that you do know, the things that you can touch, the things that you can smell, those things are the things that you need to use up. If I convince myself that this life has no other aspect than that of the absurd, if I feel that its whole equilibrium depends on the perpetual opposition between my conscious revolt and the darkness in which it struggles. If I admit that my freedom has no meaning except in a relation to its limited fate, then I must say that what counts is not the best living, but the most living. It is
Mm,
not up to me to wonder if this is vulgar or revolting, elegant or deplorable.
dude, I fuck with it, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like I can't remember the exact quote, but when he's talking about this stuff, he kind of talks about like essentially, you know, people spend so much time in the future in their heads,
Yeah.
like so much time planning for eventualities that, like, the absurd in one way is that you could just get hit by a fucking car. You
Mhm.
know, there's so many people who work so hard with their retirement in mind,
Yeah.
or with like, you know, he talks about the father who raises his sons, hoping one day his sons will take care of him, like
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
preferences for the future. But in light of the absurd, right? In light
Mhm.
of the fact that we don't know, not only is this life not present promised to us, but anything after isn't either.
Yeah. Yep.
You have to focus on what's here right now and maximizing your life within the moment that you're living,
Yeah.
which I think is fucking
That's the
beautiful.
that's the answer, like the big answer to the absurd is like past doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Future, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about like right now, the things that you are taking, the things that are given, you have to take. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Of that, you've realized what your revolt is. You kind of, it's like freedom, take it or leave it. I don't really know. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know these things that I'm going to fucking take advantage. I mean, that I think is so counterintuitive to what we're told too. You know what I mean? Of like the quality of life versus the quantity. And what he's arguing is that you have fucking quantity of life over the quality. Don't go
Yeah.
seeking the quality of life, seek the quantity. Live as much as fucking possible.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, um, let us say that the sole obstacle, the sole deficiency to be made good, is constituted by the premature death. God. Thus it is that thus it is that no depth, no emotion, no passion, and no sacrifice could render equal in the eyes of the absurd man, even if he wished it so. A conscious life of 40 years and a lucidity spread over 60 years. Madness and death are his irreparables. Man does not choose the absurd and the extra life it involves. Therefore, do not depend on man's will, but on its contrary, which is death. Weighing words carefully, it is altogether a question of luck. One just has to be able to consent to this. There will never be any substitute for 20 years of life and experience.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Dude, and in a lot of ways, like, it makes me think about like meditation, like mindfulness. You know what I mean? Like, it reminds me of just like today I was trying to think about this shit and I was just like, I didn't have my headphones in, you know what I mean? I was just like outside doing life stuff and like just taking into my mind every sound, like all the smells, all the fucking feelings that I was having, you
Yeah.
know, like the grass, the sound of my feet, the sound of birds, how like, you know, the shed door felt to open, all that shit. And it's like, I don't know, dude, there's something about like you spend so much time not in that moment, not taking that life experience in, that I think that that's like that's the crime you're doing against yourself by
Yeah.
not keeping this shit in mind. Is like you have these you only have so much time and you're not promised anything.
Mm,
And we spend so much of our like waking time half unconscious, just like
yeah.
doing shit on autopilot, or like, because there's so much out there. I don't know, dude.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I think that I have never been a person to live in the moment.
Mm,
Like I think that, I have some like, I'm spontaneous for sure because I'm fucking manic and crazy, but like how often have I just spent an entire day on my cell phone? You know what I mean? Of like how often have I spent, and I think that of just not um I wouldn't say that I have a huge reserve that I've built up of my quantity of life.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I have a fucking savings of quantity of life,
yeah.
And reading about his, like, the passion, really was like, God damn, I need to start fucking stealing every resource this life fucking gives me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
for
that's a
sure.
really cool way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think like, the other thing about this whole thing is like there's no value judgment, right? Like if you do want to spend a whole day on
Exactly.
social media on your phone, more power to you. But I think like if you're not just like fucking turning off, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not just like numbing yourself and not
Yeah.
thinking, like it's a lot like cigarettes, right? Like
Yeah.
people talk about like don't let the cigarette smoke you type shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only bad thing about a cigarette is that it takes your fucking freedom from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it's telling you you need to smoke me, when it's like if you were just like, no, this is what I want to do with my time right
Mm-hmm.
now, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Pat the Bunny lyric is I keep bitching about freedom, but I keep being enslaved by a cigarette. you
Mm-hmm.
know? Oh, it's so good. I think I'm gonna finish out with just where he finishes.
Sure.
Um, by what is an odd inconsistency in such an alert race? The Greeks claimed that those who died young were beloved of the gods, and that is true only if you are willing to believe that entering the ridiculous world of the gods is forever losing the purest of joys, which is feeling and feeling on this earth. The present and the succession of presence before a constantly conscious soul is the idea of the absurd man. But the word idea rings false in this connection. It is not even his vocation, but merely the third consequence of his reasoning. Having started from an anguished awareness of the inhuman, the meditation on the absurd returns at the end of its itinerary to the very heart of the passionate flames of the human revolt. It's fucking killer, man.
What a
So,
G, man.
yeah, dude. Yeah, I think that if you've stuck with us for this long, that chapter alone was worth it, And
Mm-hmm.
if you're reading along, I did get reached out to by a listener who said that they were reading Camus and this has helped them out a lot. So
I'm
they
glad.
messaged us on Instagram and said that to keep doing shit because they were like, I had to listen to the first chapter 10 times before I knew what the fuck. I knew it was good, but I didn't know, and it's like I was really glad to hear that. Sorry we disappeared on you all for 2 weeks, but it needed to happen. I mean, hell, I've been in a fucking doozy of a manic phase right now. So
Mm.
when Walter was like, I'm moving, things are rough. I was like, maybe we should push it off for 2 weeks because I don't know if I'm gonna read shit, homie.
Yeah.
So, um, sorry we missed you all, but I hope that you stuck around for this fucking chapter. It's so good.
Yeah, this is the big payoff. I don't know what else we're gonna get into. We're gonna read ahead a little bit and kind of decide what we want to do next.
Yeah.
I think there'll probably be at least one more chapter.
Yeah,
that
there's
we'll
probably
cover.
at least, and if there's not one chapter that we'll cover, we're gonna jump around. Don Juanism's weird, and
Yeah. So
shit
basically,
like that.
we both read the next chapter, and Dave was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah. And it's
I was
not fuck
like,
Camus. It's just I don't like Don Juanism. I think it's like fucking toxic and weird, but it's what he had in his hands of the day to kind of describe taking for you and not not planning the future and shit. His revolt kind of shit.
mhm.
And I just fucking Don Juanism so fucking toxic.
Yeah. So maybe we won't do that one, but maybe
Yeah.
we'll do something else.
Yeah.
And then after that, who knows?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get into God in the State and shit, but I don't know if I'm going to dive right back into a book. I also miss just hanging out and talking to my friends. So on this podcast,
Yeah, I miss that too. I miss having the homies around.
I know.
Maybe I miss Madeline and stuff. So
Yeah, it'd be rad to get her on. I'm sure she has a ton of fucking resources built up now.
hell yeah,
She's always going after it. So hell yeah, I think that the verse would be fucking
revolt,
yeah,
baby.
revolt, revolt, fucking revolt. And I also just think living for the take the quantity of life,
Mm-hmm.
gather all that shit up, eat it down, drink of the fucking water. Like I love that. So
Enjoy it while it's here.
yeah, fuck yeah, let's keep revolting against fucking death, guys. Doing
Oh
good.
yeah.
Well, we love you. Give us 5 stars on whatever you listen to us on. Send us
Mm-hmm.
emails. Those
Mm-hmm.
literally when I get a message on Instagram or anything, and we're not super fucking on social media. We were at one point. We weren't. It really depends on my phases and where I'm at. That's everything in my life. So, but if you send us a message, I will see it and I will respond. If you send us an email, we'll see it, we'll respond, and it really does fucking keep us going. I love hearing that stuff. So,
For
and
sure.
we want to create a religion for the people, so that loves everyone. So we need your help.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we love you, and we hope chaos walks with you this week.
Peace.